This scam used the threat of immediate utility shutoff to force same-day payments from thousands of households. Across the US, UK, Europe, and parts of Asia, people received urgent calls claiming their electricity or gas would be disconnected within hours. The callers identified themselves as utility company representatives and referenced real account details. Victims were told there was an unpaid balance that required immediate settlement. The pressure was direct: pay now or lose service the same day. Payments were demanded through gift cards, bank transfers, or digital wallets to avoid traceability. In reported cases, individuals paid hundreds or thousands to prevent disconnection that was never scheduled. Investigations later linked these calls to organized operations targeting both homes and small businesses. What made this scam effective was urgency. It forced decisions before verification was even considered. By the early 2020s, utility billing systems had become largely digital, with notifications sent through calls, emails, and apps. Households and small businesses were used to receiving alerts about payments, usage, and service updates. Missed payments could result in warnings, creating familiarity with the idea of potential disconnection. At the same time, rising energy costs increased financial pressure across many regions. In several reported cases across the US and Europe, consumers expected communication about billing issues. This created a situation where urgent payment requests felt plausible. Scammers used publicly available data and previous breach information to reference accounts convincingly. Call patterns were timed during working hours to reach decision-makers quickly. This environment allowed urgency and familiarity to combine into a highly effective entry point for fraud. The scam usually began with a direct phone call during business hours or early evening. Callers claimed to be from a local electricity or gas provider, referencing the customer's area. In multiple cases across the US, UK, and parts of Europe, the tone was urgent and procedural. Victims were told their account had an overdue balance flagged for immediate disconnection. The caller often provided a deadline of a few hours to resolve the issue. To increase pressure, some calls included a reference number or partial account detail. Victims were instructed to stay on the call while resolving the payment. At this point, urgency replaced verification, and the situation felt time-critical. Once the call progressed, the scam moved into immediate payment execution. Victims were told to resolve the balance while staying on the phone to avoid disconnection. Payment methods were directed toward gift cards, prepaid vouchers, or instant transfers. In some cases, victims were guided step by step to nearby stores to purchase payment cards. The caller remained on the line, creating continuous pressure and preventing outside verification. Payment details were provided verbally and confirmed in real time. Behind the interaction, no actual utility account was being updated or credited. In several reports, multiple payments were requested under different pretexts within the same call. The system relied on control, urgency, and isolation rather than any real billing process. As the method proved effective, the scam expanded across regions and customer segments. Both residential users and small businesses became primary targets. Call centers scaled operations to handle large volumes of outbound calls daily. In reports from the US, UK, and parts of Europe, identical scripts were used with minor adjustments. Caller ID spoofing made numbers appear as local utility providers. Some operations targeted specific neighborhoods during peak billing periods. Data lists were reused, allowing repeat contact attempts across different days. What appeared as isolated calls was often part of a coordinated, high-volume system. Over time, consistent patterns began to appear across reported utility shutoff scams. Callers demanded immediate payment with deadlines that allowed no time for verification. Requests were made for payment through gift cards or non-traditional methods. Victims were asked to stay on the call, preventing them from contacting the real utility provider. Caller ID often appeared legitimate, but numbers were later found to be spoofed. Account details provided were partial or generic, rather than fully verifiable. Official utilities rarely disconnect service without multiple prior notices. Consumer protection agencies repeatedly warned about these specific tactics. The problem was that these signals became clear only after the pressure had already taken effect. As reports increased, authorities began linking complaints across multiple regions. The Federal Trade Commission and Europol tracked coordinated call patterns tied to utility impersonation scams. Investigators identified call centers using scripted approaches and rotating phone numbers. Caller ID spoofing tools were used to display names of real utility providers. Payment flows were traced through gift card redemption systems and digital transfer networks. In several cases, organized groups were found targeting specific cities during billing cycles. Telecom providers worked with regulators to flag and block high-risk numbers. Estimated losses reached millions of dollars across households and small businesses. The investigation confirmed a system built on urgency, impersonation, and high-volume targeting. This scam revealed how essential services can be used to create immediate compliance. When access to electricity or gas is threatened, verification becomes secondary to action. The system relied on fear of disruption rather than technical manipulation. What failed was not billing systems, but how urgency was interpreted by the consumer. Even cautious individuals acted quickly when faced with potential service loss. The scam exploited trust in institutional authority combined with time pressure. Experts now emphasize verifying directly through official utility channels before any payment. The broader lesson is clear. Urgency tied to essential services should always be treated with caution.